Okay, good evening. So I'm starting up my YouTube channel again, and I've been playing a lot of World of Tanks. I've been streaming quite a bit nowadays. So I decided that I'm gonna take some time out and evaluate some replays that I want to go over. My ace tankers will be good examples to show what to do, and also, I'll probably save a couple other replays to show you maybe what not to do, what I should have done better, and things along that line. So I'm going to start doing that. So the first thing I want to go over is the team composition. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there's 3 artilleries on each side. So what that tells me is if I get spotted, I am going to explode immediately. So we need to find a position where we don't get spotted. What I will say is that just because you are in a Hellcat does not mean you need to camp. This tank has really good gun depression, has a good gun mantle, so you should take advantage of that. If there was no arty in this game, I would actually be playing at C1, but because there is arty, I'm probably going to be at either K or H. You know, you have to pick a line that you want to play on. It's one or the other. I'm going to show you a really good bush location going in the Hellcat. So I do have really good cruise skills on this tank, so keep that in mind. And you see I am using food as well. I have about a 60% concealment rating when I'm not moving, and it's about 20% after I fired. So I was using a bush. It's even higher than that, right? But you know, after you fire, you lose the camo of the bush. But that being said, in my opinion, using a camo net is really important on this tank. I am using rammer and optics as well. You can choose to use binocs instead. However, like I said, there are quite a few games where I don't camp at the back and actually go and I start doing stuff on the front line. Just because you're in a Hellcat doesn't mean you need to camp. You can get to some early positions. Your top speed is like 60 something kph. So if you know positioning and stuff like that, and you want to get some early shots in before you move back to sniping or doing whatever you want to do, you can use your mobility. You can use your mobility to do that. And if you're gonna do that, you definitely do want optics so that you can see stuff. So my view range is about exactly 445, which is another reason why I was running food to boost their view range up to the maximum. But if you take a look at the teams, we're going to see that both sides are mostly medium tanks or light tanks. Aren't any heavies. So while I will be going to the right side, what we're going to be paying attention for is this line right here. This is where we want shots at. Chance of anyone coming here is really low. We're going to be looking over here. Another thing to take note of is every time there's 3 artillery in the game, that means there's less tanks actually moving around the map. This means that people are more likely to lemming to one side or the other. So once you see a bunch of tanks on one side, that tells you which side is strong, which side is weak. So you do want to pay attention to that type of stuff while you're playing. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about on this flank, we're going to talk about a little bit of map balance here. So once you come over to this flank, what you need to understand is that if there are any light tanks coming over here, you will be spotted. Now, the Hellcat does have 30% concealment rating on the move. What that means is that it will shave off 30% of their view range, you know, from whatever they have. This doesn't include like if they're shredding camo or something like that, like, you know, light tanks or, you know, tank destroyers or binocs usually will do. But at the start of the battle, you're usually not too worried about binocs. You're more worried about light tanks with optics that might shred your view range. But as you can see up here, let me switch this over. The light tank that they have is they have a Type 64. Now, if he's using food, I believe you can get that up to like 460, 470 pretty easily, and you can start shredding. However, this one right here is not likely to shred us because the EBRs don't have very good view range. So this one's not likely. I do want to watch out for the Type because he can definitely spot us. Now, the other thing to mention is that if you do have binocs, that you will definitely shred the view range of light tanks and stuff like that around you that get near you, and you can definitely use that to your advantage. But like I said, I play the Hellcat pretty aggressively sometimes, so I prefer to use optics. But do keep in mind that most of the time what you want to do is you want to go around this way, and the reason why you want to go around that way is because you're going to get spotted by people over here. But because I have 30% camo rating on the move, I'm not too worried about it. You know, it's risky, but not. It's a calculated risk, if that makes sense. Because if I get spotted, keep in mind that I'm going like full speed. I'm about to hit 60 soon, so I can always just keep moving. This tank doesn't turn. So if you're playing the Hellcat, make sure you remember to not stop. This tank doesn't reverse and it doesn't turn. So if you get spotted and you're trying to get out of trouble, try to leave yourself some space so that you can keep driving forward, if that makes sense. So always plan to keep driving forward. Never plan to turn or go back because you can't do that. So put yourself into positions, you know, where you have an advantage. Don't put yourself in a position where you have a disadvantage. But let's continue on. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So because I'm using optics, I was able to spot this EBR over here. And notice how he can't see me. And that's because even though we both have a very high camo rating, the lower tier EBRs do not have good view range. So I'm able to outspot him while he can't see me. Now I am going to stop and take a shot here. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that you do this because after I fire, I have like 15, 20, or 20% camo rating. So he can spot us at that time. And like I said, there's like 3 RDs on the team, so be mindful of that. Like there, I hit him. Was it worth it? No. This I would tell you right now, this was a mistake. Don't do this because you're going to get spotted and there's 3 RDs on the enemy team. So don't make this mistake. This is a very bad mistake. Like, the fact that I'm not spotted right now, that is pure luck. I don't think this dude has a really good crew on his light tank. Like right there, in my opinion, I think I should have died for what I chose to do. I would tell you, like, don't do that. Even though it looks like such an appetizing shot, you don't have cover, and if you fire that shot, you know it's gonna happen. You're gonna explode. Now, the one thing you do want to watch out for is this dude looks like he's YOLOing, and guess who's in his line of path? We are. He's probably YOLOing towards artillery right now. So, our position is kind of in the open a little bit. Now, you see, they won't have really good shots on us, but they can still shoot us from there. But anyone over here can definitely shoot at us. So, I am looking for shots on them, but being honest, it would be safer if I was like back here, you know, because back here, these people wouldn't be able to shoot at me, and I could just look at the EBR. But like I said, the Hellcat doesn't really turn, doesn't really go forward and backward, so I probably wasn't really thinking about that, and I really kind of wanted to get to this position. You see now I have shots on the EBR. The good news is that all these trees right here provide cover between us, so that way he won't spot us easily. So I am using that to my advantage here. Okay, so he's dead now. The next thing I want to do is I want to light up everything right here, because I could guarantee you, look at all these mediums here. There might be someone sitting back here, and there's probably going to be people over here. There's 3 RDs. The chance of people wanting to go over here is like slim to none. Look, even their heavy tank is like, dude, I don't feel like getting RDs, so I'm not coming over here, right? So be mindful of the team compositions, because then you can predict where people are going to go. Yeah, pretty much. Also, don't YOLO in your light tanks. Light tanks are extremely important in the current meta. Lighting up, especially like you see they have 3 RDs. Like, do you know how much spotting damage you can get just from like lighting? He didn't have good view range either, so I'm like, why are you playing the EBR if you don't have the camo, you don't have the view range? That's well beyond me. Now if he's a newer player, I kind of get it, but I would tell you not to play the EBRs, because the EBRs, while they are OP in good hands, what you have to, they're actually, I would say, the only OP ones are like the top tier ones are doing like 90 kph and turning literally on a dime. Like, those things are obviously OP for obvious reasons. You can't hit them. Trying to hit them, it's extremely annoying. But the lower tiered ones are mostly just annoying. So if you do plan on playing the EBR, make sure you do have a good crew for it. If you don't have a good crew for it, I would suggest training it, there I would use a lower tier. At least I would say at least get your 6th Sense up on your commander, or you can use directives for that, and definitely have camo. You definitely want your camo, and you definitely want your V range. Those are 2 things that you definitely need for the EBR. But let's continue. Okay, I am pausing this a lot, but I'm going over the battle because it's really important to notice these things. The things I'm talking about tend to be things that I think about really quickly, and a lot of good players do the same thing. Think about these things quickly, but we don't really talk about them. So the whole point of these videos is going to be talk about the things I'm thinking about. So we see this right here. This is another heavy tank. He's decided not to come to this flank like I thought I thought they wouldn't, because, you know, 3 artillery, right? And the other thing we notice here is that the type is over here. So the other light tank is dead, and guess what? That means we have free reign to take this bush and use it as much as we want to get shots over here. So this is like the perfect setup for us. So here I'm willing to move forward and see if I have shots. The reason why I'm willing to do that is because I'm a Hellcat. I have a lot of camo. Now, whether or not I want to take the shot and risk getting spotted, that's a different story. It really depends on what type of shot I'm taking. Here, I might be willing to risk it. I do have camo net. I still have like 20% camo after firing. So keep in mind, this is lower tiers. Literally, if you look at this guy can spot me with binocs. He's probably using binocs like most Hellcats do. So I don't know who he is. So he's probably, if I had to guess where he would be, he'll be over here. These 2 tanks are blind. This tank has view range. Usually they sometimes use binocs because the view range isn't great, but it's good enough. I highly doubt he would spot me from over here if he was using optics. It's not that good, but usually they do use binocs and sit on the hills to spot people. I use binocs when I played it because the view range was serviceable, but to actually spot people, you do want binocs. Same with this. Expected to use binocs, but he's not likely to be playing this flank over here. He's likely to be over here. At least that's where I would put it, right? You already know this tank does have good view range, but he's over here. So just things to keep in mind. You do want to keep in mind the view range of the tanks that you're facing, because it tells you who's blind, who you can take advantage of. For example, Russian heavy tanks. Man, do I love shooting Russian heavy tanks in my tier 6 TDs. They are blind as bats. You can shoot them 2 to 3 times before they can even get close enough to shoot you once. Basically, you can, if they're at half health, you can kill them before they can even see you. And well, that's what you get for playing it. A Russian heavy tank. Those tanks are pretty OP in the right situation, so you gotta punish them, right? But anyways, let's continue. Alright, so here we see that we have a T-34, right? You can see one of the good points about this position is that we have camo here. So if anyone's rushing across, we do have bushes here. And then here, there's a bunch of trees. And the only way they can spot us from here is if they come into these trees and stuff. And then we can spot them if they actually come into these. You also see we do have a camo net, so if we're not moving, then we increase our camo by a lot. If anyone does come over here, I will be forced to bag up. And then I have to use this bush for cover. You know, you don't want to shoot here. You're sitting in the open, so on and so forth. But you do want to use this area, you know, to your best advantage in a game like this. If there are a lot of heavy tanks and you want to shoot this line, I would say either come up here or come support your heavies. The only way I would come support my heavies is if there's not a lot of artillery, because artillery would definitely go for you because you're a Hellcat. So let's continue. So one thing you do want to keep. This actually happened in a game I'm going to show you in the future. It's an Object 140 game. But if you do not control the side of the map when you're on this flank, what's unfortunate is that they can literally push right here and they can start shooting your allies in the side. If you see them doing that, you kind of need to put some pressure on the enemy so they stop shooting your allies. So you do need to keep stuff like that in mind. I wish this guy was a bit further forward. Like, I would support him if he was right here 100%. But it is what it is. He is back there. So I do need to keep in mind that this guy can push forward. He can spot us. This Hellcat probably push shots into him to keep him from doing that. But really, I'm expecting this guy to start shooting over here, because if I was him, that's what I would do. Also keep in mind that it's a Russian medium tank. Low tier Russian mediums are blind as fuck, so keep that in mind too. And there we see the Easy 8. You do need to keep in mind the types of guns that, I mean, not Easy 8, the German Shumbo, I'm sorry about that. But usually these guys are using derp guns, so I don't want him to shoot at me. It's actually been pretty rare that they penetrate me. Usually they hit like my tracks or something, or space armor, and they don't pin me. But regardless, you don't want to take that risk, right? Especially if he's using heat, because that's like 400 something damage you're gonna take. So yeah, keep that kind of stuff in mind. I don't expect them to be pushing, because once again we have a Hellcat here. This tank is not that fast, so I am relying on this Hellcat to spot and make sure they're not pushing into me. If they do start pushing into me, I wouldn't reverse, so to speak. I would actually turn around and then move. The reason why I wouldn't reverse is because the tank is too slow in reverse, right? So I would literally turn around, move, and then I'll probably reverse over here, and then I'd be prepared to run, do what I need to do. So the first thing I notice is, I'm pausing. Like I said, I am going to pause a lot. We're paying attention to what's going on. I'm going to explain what's going on, like, in real time. So I noticed that they didn't come up here to take shots over here. So this means they're likely to push around here. So now I'm completely relying on the Hellcat to stop this. Okay, so like I expected, medium tanks over here. We're going to get shots into them. You can use this bush. It depends on where they are. They push further ahead, use the bush. Not whatever. I do not use this. I don't use this because if they push around, guess what? You're right there. So you can see right here. Let me come over here. You see, this is what I was talking about. This is really strong. This gives you so much camo so that they can't see you. Now I'm in a Hellcat. I have a lot of camo. I have a camo net on as well, and these guys are mostly blind. So what I do know is that as long as this guy isn't being still, I know he's probably blind. Even if he's using optics, he's probably, doesn't have that much view range. If he is still, I'm expecting binocs, because that's, like I said, that's what I use for that tank. Because when taking control of hills, you want to be able to spot what's in front of you, and binocs the easiest way to do it on a tank with moderate. It's not low, it's moderate. So it's hard to push up to the maximum, but you can get it there. It's basically like the Hellcat in a way. You can get it up to maximum, you can use optics, but if you're really trying to spot something, you might want binocs, right? And then another thing to notice is if you ever want to mark your tanks or do anything like that, because I am self-spotting here, you get more experience for shooting tanks that you spot yourself. So you do need to keep that in mind, that if you're trying to mark your tanks and you're trying to get lots of XP and stuff like that, do the spotting yourself and get your assistance damage up. If you get your assistance damage up by tracking tanks instead of shooting them just for damage and things along those lines, that's how you do that. Usually I don't do stuff like that. I don't 3-mark tanks. I usually just 2-mark tanks, do pure assistance and damage. But if you track tanks instead, you'll definitely get 3 marks. That's if you're good enough to get 2 marks already. If you don't have 2 marks already, it's not too hard to get. It's mostly, that's why I'm making these videos. By making these videos, I'm hoping that you'll learn how better players are playing, what they're thinking like, and so on and so forth. In my future videos, I won't be mentioning stuff like that. This is just my first video, so when people watch this, I want them to know these things. Alright, let's continue. Okay, so you notice we got 3 arties. I know that they're there. I know that they probably can't see me because their view range isn't good enough, right? But if you notice, he did push around that corner, so I'm paying attention to that. Even though it looks like here, you can see I'm paying attention to it. I know that they're there. So this is my actual camera. This is what I'm actually doing. This is what I'm looking at right now. We do have 3 arties. I don't know why they're making this play. There's obviously, because I could be back here with this Hellcat is too. You're a blind tank, you're a blind tank. You're gonna die before you get up here, and you don't know what might be back here. If you don't, I guarantee you, almost 100% of the time, if you don't see anything right here, they're probably right here or they're back here, and you're gonna be pushing into that, and you don't have the view range to spot these guys. These are stealthy TDs that are going to be back here. You can see I'm a Hellcat, this is a Hellcat, and we have a super Hellcat. You should know you don't have the view range to spot those TDs, so I wouldn't make this play. If I were them, I actually probably would be over here, and I'd be taking care of stuff over here. This is what I'd be doing. I actually wouldn't play city. I wouldn't come up here into the open. I'd be playing down here, but And you see, I do have shots on them. However, I would recommend that you don't take those shots because there's a good chance. It's a good chance you can get spotted by them because you'll lose a lot of camo. You do have trees and stuff and whatever, but you can still lose a lot of camo and get spotted. I've been spotted that way quite a few times before, and also if these guys push or let's say there's actually a Hellcat over here and he has binoculars looking this way, you catch my drift. It's a pretty risky shot to take. The other thing I want to notice, the reason talk about it's the reason why I'm shooting APCR. You're gonna see me shoot a lot of APCR. It's not for the penetration, it's for the shell velocity. Because when you're playing those lower tier TDs, what you're gonna notice is that you have to lead your shot so much. Like trying to shoot right here, you have to lead your shot by over a second. That is a long time. Like anyone can turn, they can stop, they can do whatever they want in that time. So instead of shooting AP, if I ever plan on shooting at long ranges, I shoot APCR even if I can penetrate the target because I don't have to lead the target as much. And you see, I still do carry a lot of AP. This is for when I get close. Like for example, if I'm right here and I'm fighting these medium tanks, I will probably just shoot AP instead of APCR because I don't need the APCR to penetrate them at that point. I might need APCR to go through that T-34 85M's turret pretty consistently, so that I might do. I wouldn't shoot at this guy's turret because he has a good turret, so if you can't penetrate that, I just wouldn't bother, right? But that is why I use APCR, and I almost always default to APCR start because it's almost always long range shots. You don't know what you're shooting, and then sometimes you just want to hit the target. And if you just want to hit the target, you want the penetration to go through, right? So that's why I APCR. But let's continue. Okay, as you can see, they're taking a lot of damage, right? So I'm just watching them, make sure they're not gonna YOLO or do anything stupid. I expect them to die because what they did was incredibly stupid. Is our Hellcat taking damage? Yes. He didn't use his bush correctly. He didn't knock down these trees. Okay. When you play this position, knock down the trees. Excuse me. But when you play this position, do knock down these trees, and the reason why you want to knock down those trees is so you can use them as camo and you can back up and like fully use them. If you don't do that, you're not going to really be able to use them that well, and that's why that Hellcat got spotted over there. So that is 100% his fault for not knocking down those trees, so just keep that in mind too. Oh, yeah. Knocking down those trees. Yeah, he's dead now. So yeah, him being dead means I don't have covering fire over here, so I really have to keep that kind of stuff in mind. I'm hoping that he pushes up so that he can deal with them. If he pushes up to deal with them, I will obviously help him. But the thing to keep in mind here is definitely that he did not use those trees correctly. So he got fucked up for that. And the other thing you want to keep in mind is when you knock down trees, people can see that you knock down trees. They're going to know that you're there. So don't sit directly in the tree. Artillery will blind fire you. They will hit you. It's happened a lot. It hasn't happened to me, getting hit directly. But I've had artillery blind fire obvious locations, right? So keep that in mind. Don't sit in obvious locations. There's 3 RDs. Any one of them could decide, hey, there's trees knocked down. Let's check to see if there's anyone in there, and then they can click. So keep in mind it. You also have to keep in mind this is lower tier, so artillery has a much faster reload. So they're 100% willing to do that. So keep that type of stuff in mind as well as you're playing. Okay, this guy's pinging a lot. I really hate it when people do that. Ping like once or twice. You don't need to ping that many times, okay? Please don't ping that much. People can see your ping. Like, if you ever see me ping, I'll ping like 2-3 times max. If it's something really important, I'll ping 3 times. I'm not gonna ping more than that. If it's something that you just need to keep in mind, I'll ping once. Stuff like that. Don't ping 20 times on the map. Don't do that. Also, he's complaining about our EBR. I'm gonna put it this way. I'm not complaining about our EBR. What do you want him to do? There's three arties on each side. We have a good idea where the enemy tanks are. So in my opinion, it's better for him to do what he's doing and keep himself alive so he can spot the TDs later in the game for the team. So I'm not mad at what he's doing. He's being patient. He's watching the game. He's seeing what's going on. That's not a bad play. Sometimes you might want to be patient. And you might want to see what the fuck is going on before you start doing stuff. You know, a lot of good players do that too. For example, whenever I play my Lorraine, a lot of the time I sat around at the start for like a good 50 seconds to a minute. And then I waited, and then I went and I started clipping people out because I want to see what's going on. I want to see who I can clip out, who's out of position, so on and so forth. So I'm okay with people waiting to see what's happening. Like if they're sitting there all game, I get it. But it's not even 2 minutes yet, man. It's literally not 2 minutes, and we spotted over like 3 of their tanks are dead, and we have like we know where 5 or 6 of their tanks are right now, and then all that's left after that is just TDs for the most part in that T20, and we know artillery is camping at the base, so it's not that big of a deal, man. So don't complain about stuff that you shouldn't be complaining about, alright? Okay. So you're gonna notice I'm paying attention to, like I thought, this dude was over there. So I was right on the money with my prediction. You see, now I'm actually using this bush, right? So this is what you should be doing. Use this bush. This bush is a good counter to people over there, so keep that in mind. Now I'm gonna look for shots on him. He's been pushing forward quite a bit. I might get some shots, I might not. I need to keep both of these guys in my sights and pay attention to both of them, look for shots on both of them. And you see, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm keeping my eye on both of them, saying, do I have shots on you? This guy did a stupid. Do you know when there are 2 ways to use this position. 1, you're in a heavy tank with enough armor, or 2, you're not spotted. We know you're there. I guarantee you will be shot if you do this. If people know you're there, you cannot use this position unless you have armor. He clearly does not have the armor to use this position, so he is about to reap what he sows. Rip. Don't do that. Alright, so you see now I have shots on him. He's looking for shots on our teammates. Now I could switch to AP here if I want to, but you never know what you're going to shoot next. You never know the range, so I just keep AP so hard loaded. I have more than enough. Now you can see we're starting to put in damage this game. Like, I did do over 2,000 damage, so generally what I would say is if you watch better players play, once we start firing our guns, usually it keeps firing. I've seen a lot of players say, how often are you using your DPM? Ask a better player all the fucking time. Like, I almost always try to keep my gun firing. There's sometimes we need to be patient, but once my gun gets rolling, I keep it rolling, so. It was unfortunate I didn't spot that VK earlier when he started moving. I probably could have got a shot on him, but I did pay attention enough to get that shot through those buildings there. So do try to predict where your enemies are going to be going. Do remember how much shell velocity you have, how long it's going to take your shot to reach your target. You saw I fired a bit earlier there, and even though I fired earlier, I clipped the back end of his tank. So those are things you do need to keep in mind. That comes with experience, so it's not something you're just going to learn. After you shoot a gun so many times, you're going to get used to shell velocity, so on and so forth. Each tank has they have similar shell velocity values. The only thing that you're going to notice is that some tanks do have higher shell velocities. For example, the Object 140, when I started playing it, I realized how high that shell velocity is. Even the Heat has a really good shell velocity, so you're really not going to notice it if you're shooting APCR that much. Unless your tank has like godlike shell velocity, then you're really gonna notice it. Then you're gonna have to start taking adjustments. If you're shooting AP, like I said, you have to gauge your distance, and then things really start getting complicated when you shoot AP. That's why most people just shoot APCR so they don't have to deal with that. When I get at closer ranges, I'm more than willing to shoot AP. It really depends on what I'm shooting at and the range I'm shooting them at. Okay, here you see I spotted the Hellcat. So here you need to decide which target is the biggest threat. In my opinion, the tank with the most camo is the biggest threat because it's going to be really hard to outspot him, and he's probably using binocs. So basically what can happen is, if we don't deal with this guy now, he can fall back and he can use binocs. We will never spot him before, you know, he spots us. He will have more V range than us, and he will shred straight through our camo. So we really do need to deal with this Hellcat. So that is one thing I will say. Try to prioritize your targets. If you know a target is a high priority, go after them. In my opinion, the highest priority targets are targets that won't be there for very long. So we're talking about like stealth TDs, artillery, light tanks, so on and so forth. These are tanks that are likely not to expose themselves for a very long period of time. And because they don't expose themselves for a long period of time, if you can get a shot into them, I would suggest taking it, in my opinion. I mean, obviously it depends on the situation, you know, like how I said at the start, you know, taking that shot was a bad idea. But I'm saying if you have to pick out of the litter of tanks, I would definitely shoot light tanks first, then I would shoot stealth TD second, then I go for artillery, then medium tanks, then slow heavies. I consider heaviums or fast medium tanks as medium tanks, and I consider those to be a bigger threat than medium tanks. So actually I would say artillery, heaviums, mediums, and then super heavies. Super heavies and super TDs, heavy TDs don't go anywhere. I'm not worried about those tanks. I've seen so many people push into those tanks. You don't need to. Like a T95 goes like what, 20 kilometers? Leave it there. If it's the only tank on that flank, go kill everything else. It's stuck there. Don't go after it. I've seen games lost because people went after a T95. It's not going anywhere. Don't go after it. No, use your target priorities, right? So anyways, let's continue. Alright, you're gonna notice this Hellcat is still spotted. It looks like he's still being aggressive, so he might pop up again. I do want to pay attention to that. I probably don't have any more shots in that BK. Another thing to keep in mind is we just spotted this guy. This is important because this dude has a lot of view range and he can definitely shred us as well. So we do want to pay attention to where he is on the map. We now know where he is. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So only one tank is not spotted. That is this person, who we obviously don't want to get hit by, but we know they're already at the back of the map. So now we know where the rest of the tanks are, and we can decide what we want to do from here. In my opinion, I'm probably going to want to choose two targets, either him or him. So that's where I would go from here. As you can see, the Hellcat came out. Like I said, I was expecting him to do so. Keep in mind that I don't really remember these games. I did play them, but I'm just saying what I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking is likely what I was thinking in the game. You've noticed I've been doing that stuff too. None of this stuff is scripted. It's just me going off the top of my head what I would do in these situations, and I'm doing exactly what I would think, surprisingly enough. So I'm not always retarded, I hope. Okay. Some more advice I'm going to give you. This is a Hellcat, it has no armor. I just need to hit the tank. Some players will fully aim their shots. You don't need to do that. If you just need to hit the target if they're not moving. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you have a very high chance of hitting them. And then what's going to happen after that is that you reload your next shot faster to put your next shot into them. This is called DPMing. Keep your DPM high. DPM stands for damage per minute. Each tank has a certain amount of damage per minute that it can use. The Hellcat has a very high DPM, so by using this type of strategy where I'm just penetrating the tank and not fully aiming all the time, you can get a very high DPM and a no very good use of how much damage per minute that you can put out. So do keep things like that in mind as well. So I am going to talk about all these small things that I'm doing, because these small things do matter and they do add up, and you know, other players may not know about these things. Mistake. Remember how I told you I would turn around and then drive forward? There was a reason for that. Look at how slow he's going. Just turn around and drive. Don't, first off, don't put yourself in a situation like this. You see this house? Why didn't you drive behind the house? You're trying to shoot these people, right? He didn't have to come here. He could have drove behind the house. So I don't know why he drove into the open when he got spotted the first time. You getting spotted the first time wasn't them. It was obviously someone sitting here, or someone along this line spotted you. You even see the EBR here. He's probably, I don't know. I feel like you're not looking at the map, or you don't know what to do. If I was him, if I wanted to get shots on these guys, first off, I'd be back here. Like, you have the movement. He literally could have moved around and started shooting these guys as they pushed into him. I'm assuming he's using binocs. I would be. Either optics or binocs. At this range, optics would definitely spot them. You could self-spot. I don't see the issue. I just wouldn't take the position he's in. And this is why I said, plan your moves accordingly. If he wanted to come this way regardless, he literally could have just turned and went around here, and I would not have a second shot on him. He gave me a second shot on him for free because he didn't plan what he was going to do. So don't do stuff like that. I also want to pay attention to this Panther. Like, yeah, he's in the open now, so that might be a future shot. Okay, here's something that I know. I know he can spot me from here. He's not moving, so if he has binocs, it's definitely activated. So what I'm going to pay attention to is I want to know how quickly will this guy notice that we're here, and can we shoot him again without taking damage. Even if we do take damage, the chances of us being fired at, let's put it this way. These guys are spotted, these guys are spotted. I've been unspotted the whole game right here. Artillery is not aiming at me, so I'm not worried about artillery hitting me right now. What I am worried about is, can this guy notice I'm here, right? He's probably tunnel visioning, probably trying to shoot this EBR or something. So, you know, why not go for it? Okay, pausing game. Look what we see. But he's thankfully behind this house. Yeah, I figured someone was here. I figured someone had to be there. And, well, we know who's there, so we don't want to get one-shotted by him either. So I would tell you that I know he's spotted at this point. I am watching the map. I know he's spotted, and I know there's a house there, so I'm not too worried about it. What I'm worried about is just this guy right now. We did track him and damage him in the same time, so... Alright, so you notice he was a little slow to recognize us. I don't know why he was slow to recognize us. So we put in a second shot for free. If people are doing stupid things, they give you free damage, take it. Don't put yourself at risk for that free damage, but you know, if they're giving you free damage, just take it. Alright, now he's dead. We know where the enemies are. The 152 is here. We can go up, shoot him in the ass. The T20's over here. He's not going anywhere. The team's going to kill him. The team's going to kill him. So likely I have to kill this guy and then artillery. Okay, you see, artillery has been spotted. Artillery can kill me. However, this guy is shooting my allies. The sooner we get rid of this guy, the sooner we can start, you know, pushing up. So some people would stop here and shoot artillery. You can choose to do that. I mean, it's your prerogative. But what I would do is I would shoot him first, and then your second shot, whatever, can start going towards them. I don't know if I sit still here or not, but obviously there's artillery. So what I would do is I would probably push to this location or something like that, somewhere that makes it harder for artillery to hit me. But I don't think I did that. So you see, I'm trying to track him and keep him from moving. So I believe I did track him. No, I didn't. But you see what I'm doing right here? I'm kind of using this rock a little bit, trying to So if artillery does shoot at me, they might hit this rock. It's pretty close range, so the arc is going to be a lot less. Okay, here I'm kind of exposing myself a bit. I would not recommend doing this. Pay attention to people behind you. I really should be using this rock more, and I should be hugging this rock right now. So you see there, I did track him and damage him. That's what you want to do to TDs that don't have a turret. Make sure you do that. It's really important. Another thing you need to keep in mind is some people do use a toolbox depending on the TD. For example, on my Object 263, I've been using a toolbox in that thing for years, and it increases my repair rate by like 25%. So basically the longest time you can keep me track is about 2 seconds in my Object 263. It's an assault TD. I play it very aggressively. People try to track me, I don't let them do it. I beat people in tournaments using that strategy as well. I just let them track me, and then they realize they wasted a shot, and then this is when it was a tier 10 TD, by the way. And then I just use my DBM, so you wasted a shot in my tracks, and then I repair it. However, the thing you need to keep in mind is that that's for like assault TDs. Like we're talking about like British TDs. Tank destroyers that have armor. If it's not a tank destroyer with armor, they're probably not going to use a toolbox, right? But keep that in mind that some people do use a toolbox. You could tell pretty quickly if someone's using a toolbox too. Some people also do use 2 repair kits. They use premium and regular instead of using a fire extinguisher. Yo, they're out there, man. Be careful. They are out there, and they will punish you heavily for not knowing. So that's why you want to make sure you don't put yourself in those types of positions. So we're gonna finish this guy off now. And you'll notice I gave myself just enough room to turn there. This tank doesn't turn very well, but I'm trying to keep myself mobile so these artillery don't just hit me. You'll notice that even while I was there, I was rocking back and forth trying to, make it a little less obvious, a little bit harder. It's not that much harder. You can predict what I'm going to do and hit me anyway, but try to make it a little harder. Don't just sit there. If you just sit there, that's not just for artillery, that's for tanks shooting at you too. You need to keep that in mind, that in this game we've already won it, but a lot of the time when you're flanking people, they might have like teammates over here, and then those teammates can shoot you. So by rocking, you're making it harder to hit you. Also, don't just rock back and forth. Make sure it's unpredictable. It becomes second nature when you practice it, but you do need to do stuff like that. So now you see me loading AP. I don't need APCR anymore. So that's why I said I do switch shell types. It depends on what target I'm shooting, what I expect, right? And you see, I could shoot these artillery right now, but guess what? They're probably looking at me. So yeah, do I want to shoot them and probably get one-shotted? Probably not. So I'm going to keep moving. Alright, first shot was an unfortunate miss, but we're gonna try again. Second shot was hit. And that's basically GG. So T20 is gonna die now. Alright, and that's the end of the game. Thank you for watching. I do plan on putting out more videos like this pretty often, so it'll be the start of a new YouTube channel. So why not? Do tune in for more videos. I do plan on putting up quite a few in the next few days, and I'll be taking games and showing what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I will also not just be taking my best games. I do want to show mistakes that I'm making as well, because that's fairly important in my opinion. Is because we don't do everything perfectly, right? Like no we don't. We make mistakes. Good players make mistakes. It's important to point out those mistakes that we learn from them. If you want to catch me streaming, you can catch me streaming on Delimon 007. I'll be leaving that in the description below, so you can check out my stream. I stream almost every day. I do stream a lot of other different games too, but I've been streaming World of Tanks at least maybe once every day or two, so it's pretty often, so you'll probably catch me. As for the times that I stream, usually I'm streaming, I believe we're Eastern in Indiana, so that's Indiana, USA. So usually I'm streaming World of Tanks by like 9 or 10 o'clock or so, and usually I stream to like somewhere between 1 to 2 o'clock. So usually like 3 or 4 hours. I'm usually streaming for a while, so I'm usually streaming before the other big streamers start, like at the night and stuff like that. So if you're looking for an early World of Tanks stream with a decent player, you can watch me. We could chill out. Usually, I don't take this game too seriously, and I just play for fun. But yeah, I do appreciate you watching this video, and I hope that you learned a lot, because I myself did learn a lot from watching this video, because I can see my own mistakes, and as I pointed out, so it's important to me that I do learn from my mistakes. That's how you become a better player. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you can't become better than you already are. So, alright, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Yeah, I didn't forget that.